Parent Entrepreneur Power, conversation number 222.
Parent Entrepreneur Power.
Wait, what? It's Power!
This is the podcast for parents juggling the tough choices required for success in business while putting family first. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine Johnson, and I share the ups and downs and dirty truths of profits and potty training while chatting with successful parent entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Are you powered up? Hey there, Power Parents. You know who I am, and I am so glad you're joining me on Parent Entrepreneur Power, because last week I was able to have you listen in on a little chat I had with one of my sons, and now this week I get to have you listen in on another chat I'm having with my other son. So let me introduce you to this guy who has been behind the scenes of this podcast for several years now. And you can also hear him on episode number 100 when he was probably at least 2 years younger than he is right now, chatting about parenting and entrepreneurship from his perspective. So let me introduce you to Mr. Evan Johnson. Hello there, sir. How are you?
I am good. I'm very
Yes.
happy to be here.
Yes.
I'm excited to share some things. I don't get the opportunity to talk about my thoughts and feelings very often. You know, I only talk about business stuff with clients.
Yep.
So this is nice.
Yes. And we get to talk, and you get to actually not just listen to my conversations with everybody else, but you're going to actually be able to give us some of your insights, not just from all those other conversations you've heard, but from your own experience. So just start off with telling everybody how old you are and, what you do every day, because you're old enough to have a job. So, kind of, and also college and all that kind of stuff. So just kind of give a general introduction of yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm 19 and I'll be 20 in early August. So that's happening soon. And I do all my work online as an entrepreneur. I edit podcasts, kind of like what I do for this one. And then, you, my mom, Mary, were the one that you were the one that introduced me to this world of podcasting originally. I worked on yours for a while, and then you suggested that I market these skills to someone else, and I did. And so that was quite a while ago now, and since then I've been able to get other clients and things. And so now I have an income from that can sustain me. And school-wise, I went to a physical school for a year and a half. Hated it. It was horrible. It was for college. This is what I mean, for college. And then this past winter, which was the winter that was halfway through my sophomore year of college, I switched to a fully online school, which has been such an improvement from a physical college. I can't even describe how much better it is for me anyway. Since I was never big as a social part of college, and my friends were outside of college, so I didn't really give up very much in switching to online. So for me, it was absolutely perfect. It is so much better. So I pretty much do everything online now, work and school. So yeah, that's where I am right now.
19, very soon to be 20, and you work and go to college online. What a concept. Probably 30 years ago, which is pretty much when I graduated high school and coming up to graduating college too. That was just unheard of. Nobody, first off, online didn't exist. And even when that world started coming up, people still have the traditional sense of how people work and learn. And that is, you go to a location and you work at a job and you go to a school and you learn whatever you have to in front of a teacher right there when everyone else is. So let's just start with that. Let's start with the school part. Why is the online school? You said you can't even say, but I'm going to try and make you say. So why is the online school, do you think it's better than the physical school you went to?
Okay, well, first, let me go ahead and address the downsides of physical school that I know everyone knows about. So, well, first off, you wake up early and you have to drive or walk or get up and go to school, which that alone it sucks a lot. And so you get up and so you go to school. For me, I had to commute around anywhere between half an hour to an hour to get to school every morning. And I had an 8 a.m. class, so I woke up at 5:30 a.m. to commute to school, which that wasn't very fun. And so you get to school, you go to your first class, you find out that it was canceled.
And not till you get
I
there.
didn't get the email until like 7:30 that morning while I was driving. So boom, waste of time. And then so go to my next class, that works out okay. I get in there, teacher takes 10 minutes to take roll and then give us a speech about why phones are bad and we shouldn't be on them. And then 20 minutes later, he stops the whole class and to tell one guy to get off his phone. So does that sound like a great, fun school environment? No, it doesn't.
No.
And then you get assignments, finals. Finals are horrible. Midterms, tests in class, worksheets, finding a partner for a project when you don't know anyone, and as an introvert, as me, that was that I didn't like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Unless I had a friend in class, but that wasn't the case in college usually. And buying Scantrons, pencils, pens, having a backpack full of stuff and textbooks, and it's just that's not the only reason people still do it is because their parents tell them to. They don't believe online school. Even though it's something you believe in, it's a thing that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the parents don't agree with that, or they want to do something like join a fraternity or a sorority or sports that you do need to go to a physical school for. So that is a big thing that a lot of people do that outweighs all those cons I just talked about. Or if you're, say, a music major or a drama major or a some kind of science major, you need a lab or a stage or a rehearsal or something like that. Then you also need a physical school. But my major right now is English and creative writing. I don't need to be in a class for that. The school that I go to, it's Southern New Hampshire University. That's the school I go to now. And how this one works compared to quote unquote regular school, physical school, is that the terms are divided into 2-month terms. One class for those 2 months is considered a half-time student, and 2 classes are full-time. I do 2 classes, so I'm technically a full-time student. Since it's only 2 months, they don't really fit in midterms and finals, so there aren't midterms and finals really. It's all online. Any communication with anyone else is through discussion posts, assignments. Discussion posts are some assignments where they give you a topic and you write a post about it, and then the next week's assignment is to comment back on 2 other people's posts. And then there are some quizzes, super easy, readings, maybe one essay, I guess. It's really not nearly difficult. They tell you, I was told maybe 15 hours per course, which I feel like is the norm, but I work fast and things are easy and it's never as much as they tell you. I could spend as little as 2 hours a week on school for the same degree I would have gotten spending 8 hours a day, 7 days a week sometimes because I was in band.
Right.
I'm getting the same degree I would have.
Right.
And I'm enjoying it for the most. I mean, unless this term I have 2 classes where I'm kind of iffy about it. It's not as enjoyable. The last term I had a creative writing course. That was fun. I just wrote stuff and people commented saying it was good and the teacher liked it. So it was really fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was a lot, and I could do it at my leisure. I could, as long as everything was submitted by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. then that was it. It was fine. So it was. I enjoy it.
Yeah. And so a couple of things for your specific situation and the type of degree you're looking for and the type of experience in college you're looking for, which is really just the learning environment. You're not there for all the social stuff. That's not really what's as interesting to you. So for what you're looking for in college, this is perfect. It takes less time. Probably it sounds like a quarter of the time that you would be spending, especially if you add commuting and all those kinds of things, that you would be spending going to the local college or any university. But I think the one thing that hinges on this whole thing, so you said you have to have your assignments done by 11:59 Sunday night. How many times has it happened where you've come up to 11:45 on a Sunday night and your homework isn't done and you've got to scramble and get it done?
Well, it's actually never happened to me
Right.
because I have the whole week beforehand, so I just do
That's
it.
Yep.
It may or a Wednesday. I usually do it on Wednesday. I did some today, this morning.
Yeah. So that's my point. In order for this to work, and believe me, there's a purpose for this because I'm going to segue into entrepreneurship in a minute. In order for that to work, you have to be disciplined. You have to know I'm not going to wait till 11:45 Sunday night. I'm going to get it done when I can get it done. Yes, you can sleep in. Yes, you can either stay up late. Yes, you can go visit with friends. You can go out to a cafe or a pizza place and you can work if you want. I mean, that kind of freedom is amazing, but you have to be disciplined in order to make that work, so that you're not constantly under the gun. So there's a certain requirement in that to really be successful and not be so stressed about it. And I'm not saying someone who waits until 11:45 isn't going to be successful in it. It's just a lot more stressful. So, and if they want to deal with that stress, good on them. That's awesome. But that leads me into, it kind of makes sense that you would choose this kind of a college because of the business you set up, right? The business you've chosen to start, which is the podcast editing. And for anyone listening, if you need a podcast editor, his business is ipodcastedit.com. So we got to put a plug in there and we'll have it in the show notes as well. So you can go straight to it because he has quite a few clients and they're pretty high profile clients too. So not necessarily me, but the other people. So, tell me about how that transitions into now being an online entrepreneur, because that's pretty much what you are. So you're an online college student and you're an online entrepreneur. So how did that college experience we just talked about translate into the business that you have?
Well, the business for me started first. I was doing the business stuff while I was still in physical school, but it only really took off though after I switched. And it's just they work really well together because if I have something due on a certain day, I can plan both commitments around that. Um, Most of my work is centered on Thursday or Friday, and then Monday, my business work, because since I did a podcast, it all is based around when those podcasts are published, right? This show goes out on Tuesdays,
Right.
and and it also depends on when people send stuff to me. So maybe I'll do my schoolwork Wednesday, Thursday. I usually knock it out in one day in one sitting because it's really not very much. But sometimes if I wanted to do one class, then I'd want to be done for the day, and then I will, the next class the next day. And so they work pretty well together because I can do both things around each other, and I have all day to do it because I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have to go to school, and then I don't have to worry about coming home and then all the homework, and I have to plan. So I plan it around each other, and it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it works really well. And that the only difference is what I can hear you saying is with the college, it's really structured for you, right? So you get assignments on a certain day, you have a certain day to get them done, you get them done and turn them in. And the next week you get assignments, or you could get assignments ahead of time. I don't know, but it is structured for you. Whereas with entrepreneurship, it's not structured for you, right? I mean, you have to make this happen and you have clients that impact when you can get things done, right?
Oh yeah. That's sometimes they don't send it to me until the day before. If a podcast episode goes out on Sunday, I could be sitting around at noon Saturday thinking, where is there going to be an episode or not? I don't know. They haven't sent anything to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not going to talk, of course, your mother would never do that. I always get things to you ahead of time. Yeah.
I mean,
No,
no,
no.
had enough time for me to actually do it. You don't wait till Monday night when it goes out on Tuesday.
Most of the time I don't. There have been a few times when I've said, you know what, I can't get it to you till Tuesday morning. But that's all right. You're my son, so you forgive me easier.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah. So, but you don't have as much control over that, right? I mean, you have to go according to the client getting you information, and that is a universal issue for every single service provider to any client. I have the same issue in my business. Every service provider has that issue, and we try and create systems where we say, like, I'm taking on a new client and they want me to do this work for them, and I basically say, we are not starting until you have 3 of these things that I need from you ahead of time. I won't touch anything until that part's done. And so if that part isn't done, I don't touch anything until they get that done. That could be in 3 days if someone is really organized and motivated, and that could be in 3 months. I've actually had to wait a good 3 months for things like that to happen. And I know you've had the same situation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got on a call with someone about starting a new podcast for them, and they're super excited. We talk all about it. It's great. They hang up the call. I send them the stuff. Don't hear back from them at all for weeks. There isn't even I'm sorry, it's going to take a little bit longer for me to get things done. It's just complete silence, even when I follow up. So I just say whatever. I'll hopefully I hear back from them at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Um,
Because some of those have turned into clients though too, right?
That's true. Sometimes it happens and then they go away and then they resurface a couple weeks later, and then which is nice. And then it works out, and then they start, and then it's a monthly thing. Yeah.
And so with this business, you said that you can support yourself. So tell me a little bit more about, I know one of the benefits to this, just like in school, is that you can do this anywhere, anytime. I know that's what you talked about with school, and I know that's a benefit for work too. So tell us a little bit more about that with the work side.
Well, being able to do it anywhere, anytime is really nice because I travel pretty frequently, back and forth because we're the two of us. We're up here in Northern California, Sacramento, and I travel back and forth between Sacramento and Los Angeles pretty frequently because that's where my girlfriend is. So I kind of go back and forth. But no matter where I am, the work doesn't change. It doesn't matter where I am. I don't have to request time off. I don't have to quit a job in one place and find a new one in another place. And I'm also in August or September moving to Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, with my girlfriend, and I don't have to worry about, quitting a job here, finding one there, something like that. So I can do it whenever I want, wherever I want. I can travel as much as I want, as long as I have internet access. I can do my work and nothing changes, right? Unless I have to worry about a time zone difference, but that's no big deal. So it's nice. It's really free. There's a lot of freedom in that.
Yes. And I know you've also had other jobs. You've actually had a physical job, just like we're going to a physical school. You've had a couple of physical jobs where you actually had to go to the location and do a particular job at that location. So tell me a little bit more about how that experience was. And I know in between this whole thing, when you were first kind of exploring really creating this business with podcasting, we had a trip to Europe, and we saw different situations going on there and different people in different jobs, and you were kind of contemplating back and forth as to whether you really wanted to do this whole online business thing or become an entrepreneur, and whether you should just go get a regular job to learn some of those skills that a regular job would give you. So expand on that a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, for a long time, being an entrepreneur didn't seem like a real thing because 99% of the kind of people I was associated with were not entrepreneurs. But you were pretty much the only person that I knew of who actually pursued this full entrepreneur thing. Everybody else, 19-year-olds, what do? They go get a job at McDonald's or something like that.
Right.
Right. Or they go to college and get an internship somewhere and then boom, right out of college, they're in the cubicle, right, working in the office or whatever. And so it didn't seem real for a long time until it started to pick up more, and until after I had experienced some of that real life stuff, which I'll talk about here in just a second. It took experiencing a quote unquote real job to really appreciate being an entrepreneur. And so what happened? So for about 2 months, I worked at a Starbucks, right? Typical 19-year-old, 18, 19-year-old job. It was one of those Starbucks that was in a Target, supermarket store.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the Starbucks, and that was awful. I hated working at that Starbucks. I hated working at that Starbucks. It was difficult. The job was difficult. I had to make all the drinks, remember how to make all the drinks. Stressful things happened. Bing, bang, boom. People came in, ordered something. Sometimes I was the only one in the little stand area, so I had to wait and take someone's order and then make the drink. And then by that time, it was a line mile long, and I had like 10 cups lined up on the table thing I had to make drinks of. So it was stressful. And I had to go there at a certain time, and they made my schedule for me. And if the times I was scheduled to work didn't work out with something else I wanted to do, that sucked. I had to go to work. So there's just a lot of stress for not very much money, not as much money as you can make being an entrepreneur.
Right.
And so then I quit that pretty quickly because that was not worth it. And then a little bit later, I worked in an office setting because my dad is a tax accountant. He has a tax office. It's family run, just him and my grandpa. And during the tax season, right, April to May, April to May, pretty much was the tax season.
February, March, and April. February, March, and
yeah,
April.
that's right. So February to April. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
They needed a receptionist, kind of a job, because they couldn't both handle just the two of them. So it was pretty busy. Right. And so I worked there for those couple months, doing receptionist stuff, answering phone calls, scheduling appointments. I did a little bit more specialty work. I put together the tax returns, but that was just once. I just had to put the papers in the right order and put a couple X's on some things for people to sign. And so that was definitely less stressful than the Starbucks job because it was an office setting, it was calm. But it was a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, and so there was a reliable paycheck, right? Every 2 weeks, I got a paycheck, and it happened, and that I could count on, which was definitely nice. That kind of security it feels good to have that kind of security. And it was also a set amount, right? I wasn't the only way I'd lose money is if I didn't show up to work, if they had less hours. But at the same time, I had to show up to work. I had to get up and drive there, and I had to wear a certain thing, right? I had to wear nice pants, I had to wear a nice shirt, and sit at the desk all day. And I only had a certain amount of time for lunch, and the whole thing, which I did not enjoy very much because being an entrepreneur, you can do it whenever I could do it in bed. I could work in bed. I've woken up some days, and I would think to myself, "Oh man, I wish I could stay in bed." And then I wait a second, and I go, "Wait, I can stay in bed." And then I just grab my laptop and I stay in bed and I work and I'm in bed. And it's great. And then I can get up and go to the desk, go to my desk or something like that. I can do it wherever I want, whenever I want. Sometimes I like working at a Starbucks. It's funny because I used to work in Starbucks, but now I do my own work at a Starbucks.
Right.
Which is nice because I can do it whenever I want, although there isn't that security. Right, some of my clients, maybe they won't do it. They won't publish an episode 1 week because something happens. So then that pushes my quote unquote paycheck back another week. It doesn't. If they don't follow through, if they want to stop doing their podcast, it's a lot of money lost, and I don't have any control over that. That's all of them. I wait. I just have to hope that they continue.
Right.
And hope I get more clients, and hope I don't lose clients. So there isn't very much security, which doesn't feel good. But at the same time, there's a lot of room to grow. having my own business. When I worked at the office job or Starbucks, I couldn't really, it all depends on asking, please, 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 will you promote me or something to a superior, right? It all depends on them. Anything I do in my business depends on me.
Right.
If I want more clients, then I have to go out and get more clients. I don't have to suck up to a boss or wait a certain amount of time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nice. So I mean, I still think the pros outweigh the cons. Being an entrepreneur is better in my opinion. For me anyway, I've enjoyed it more. It's been better, more fulfilling. I got that client because of my work,
Right.
which was nice. So yeah, pros and cons.
Yeah, both. And yes, you talk about stability, and you talk about a little more security with a quote desk job or a job where you go to a job. But like the tax job, tax office job, the tax season's over and they don't need you anymore. So as much as it was great to have that paycheck, steady, regular paycheck of a specific amount, the season ends and you're done. Or with Starbucks at Target, you're only going to get a certain amount of hours each week, and they could fluctuate those hours anytime they want for any reason.
That's true. So there is stability, but I guess there's also not at the same time. Like, what if the company has to their budget cuts or something, right? And they fire you. A lot of teachers get fired. Employees get fired every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's never 100% stability in anything unless you make $1 billion and then put it into savings and you have $1 billion.
That's right.
But otherwise, there's still. I mean, it's not. If you're an entrepreneur, people can quit on you, and if you work at a place, people can fire you.
Right. Yep.
So.
Yeah. So, I know we didn't talk a lot. You talked a little bit on episode number 100 about how it felt to have a parent as an entrepreneur. And, I don't know whether that influenced you or not, when you were growing up seeing that. But I know that when we talked later and you were looking at jobs and looking at careers and those kinds of things, that did influence you when we had conversations about entrepreneurship and about how it would work. So can you remember anything about the influence of growing up, having a parent who was an entrepreneur versus our conversations when you were reaching adulthood about entrepreneurship? Did either of those weigh more than the other in your decision to do this?
Well, as a kid, my mind wasn't really in a place to appreciate and understand all the things that we've talked about. My mind was more on to when am I going to get my time to build my Legos. That was pretty much it at that point. It was Legos and video games, which also were Lego video games. So a lot of that was pretty much it. Whoever could get me my Legos, I'm happy with whatever they do. And then also when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, you were doing the shirts, right? Mommy Love.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't quite understand what was going on. I knew that you made your shirts, right? You pressed them. Your shirt room was actually the room I have now. Used to be your shirt office place.
Right.
And it was hot in there because the press got hot, and you were busy a lot. And that was pretty much the extent of my understanding. And then it was, she made shirts. She's busy. I'm going to go back to my Legos. And then of course my dad, he was still at the tax office at that point, and he, put on the suit, went to work every day. That was pretty much what I understood to be work. It wasn't until later that I started to get an appreciation for the entrepreneurship, because when I was 16, and I'd say a sophomore in high school, was when you started to introduce me to these kinds of skills, where you asked me to edit your podcast for you. But at that point, it was still just helping mom, right? It was, I still, because I didn't, it took me a little while to really transition into thinking like an adult. You know what I mean? Getting past my only problems being girls or video games or, high school stuff.
Right.
Because nothing major happened when I was a kid, like traumatizing. So
Right.
So it took me a little while to transition into thinking like an adult and feeling like an adult. And so, it wasn't until you really pushed me to get my business out there for more people that I actually do it. And even then, it still was more of, it didn't feel like a real job to me until it started taking off and I started doing things myself. And then that happened pretty recently. And then now it feels good. And I feel much better. I've done things like those physical jobs, which really, make you feel more like an adult. Um, but as a child, as a kid, um, the best thing was, of course, having a parent home. That was the best thing, I think. Not having to take a bus, having you there every day was amazing. And I definitely, and now I may not have appreciated it then, but now I do remember that, and I really appreciate that, and I appreciate now I know what you had to do that, and I want to do that as well. I'd rather, now I think back, and I'd rather do what you did as opposed to what my dad did and does.
Right. Right. And and his is different. He still has to go to a job. He could work from home the other times other than tax season. But yeah, it's different. It's totally different than being an entrepreneur like you and I are.
Hmm.
Our schedules and our workload is basically dictated by the amount of work and the type of clients that we have. Um, so I'm so excited that you have at least this option. Of course, I was hoping that you would choose entrepreneurship because I know for me anyway, I love it and I love the benefits of it. But if you went to a job like a Starbucks job or working for dad and you preferred that, that would be great because then you would have that and you would know that you would know based on seeing both and experiencing both, you would know what you want. Many kids don't even realize that this other world of online entrepreneurship even exists. It really is just not even an option. It's not even in their sphere of consciousness. So to be able to be exposed to that and be exposed to the quote normal or average type of situation is I'm just so glad that you have been able to be exposed to both and you make your own choice. And it doesn't mean that sometime in the future, I know one of my chatbot sons, who I'm talking about, he was an entrepreneur and doing an agency just like I do. And then one of the amazing companies that we use, Chat Fuel, offered him a job. And so now he's working full time for them. And he gave up his business to go work for them. But the business itself is run like entrepreneurs. They allow you to do things like entrepreneurs. And he gets the benefit of having exposure to these other incredible entrepreneurs and gets feedback and gets to communicate with. And so he's not just alone. And so he chose to take that on, and it's fantastic. It doesn't mean that this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, and that's all there is to it, and nothing's ever going to change. But you've been exposed to it, and it just is. I'm so happy that both of you have been exposed to that. So, especially listening to podcasts, I've got to brag on you a little bit because I love the fact that you get to hear some pretty incredible podcasts and you get to edit them. And as you're editing them, I know they influence you.
Hmm.
And that is incredible. I mean, I know you got to go to a conference from one of the podcast hosts that you work for. So tell me about how this whole world, and it's happened pretty quickly with you making this whole transition into, no, I really do appreciate what I have. I mean, we're talking less than a year, I think, that has happened. Is that right?
Yeah, I worked at Starbucks um, June to July, this last June to July, and then June 1st is and this week.
Yeah.
So about under a year because it didn't happen until a little late. My business didn't start taking off until a ways after Starbucks.
Mm,
So yeah, definitely less than a year, only a couple months really. Now that I think about it.
right.
Um, yeah.
And that appreciation for what you were listening to, because you've been editing podcasts for, I mean, not just my podcast, definitely my podcast, you've been editing for a good, probably 3 years at least. But you've also been editing a couple of other podcasts, even in between there where it didn't quote take off, but you didn't really absorb and pay attention to from the perspective of the benefit that you have for listening to these people until after those experiences. right?
Yeah. I know the podcasts that I have now are really influential. Sometimes I'm listening through and I kind of forget I have to, work on them. Like I have to write stuff down. I kind of just sit there and listen, and then I have to pause it and go, wait, I should have written that down. Rewind it and then listen to it again. Because there's a lot of, they talk a lot about nice stuff. When I first started the business, I had two clients besides you, and they both had specific audiences in mind,
Hmm.
neither one of which had anything to do with me.
Right.
Um, like one of them, for example, was women, older women,
Hmm.
right? And I'm neither one of those things.
Right.
I never will be. Well, I'll be old at some point, but I
Yeah,
won't
right.
be. And a
Right.
lot of talk about have to do with that specifically. And so things like that, I didn't really gain anything from that. And then eventually I lost those two clients because they just kind of stopped. But then I got all my new clients, um, in addition to you, have a lot of stuff that I can, take, except for some people talk about, say, business specific things, right? Like maybe for someone who has a sales team, right?
Right.
I don't have a sales team; it's just me, so
Right.
I don't really, I mean, I'll listen to if there's some sales advice. So I do have to sell my services, so I guess I am a salesperson
Right.
technically.
Right.
But a lot of people talk about, say life in addition to business. I'll just go ahead and say an example.
Hmm.
Uh, Satema Gali of
Hmm.
the Your Daily Revolution podcast. He was the guy whose conference I went to that you spoke about, you mentioned a minute ago. I listened to that, and I feel inspired by what he's saying, and some of my other clients talk about similar things. And I feel inspired by what he's saying, and I want to go out and do it, and so I listen to those things, and it's starting to get to me, especially now that I'm starting to think more like an adult. I'm moving out on my own here pretty soon, so I'm thinking about those kinds of things. It's not just come home, mom, when's dinner going to be ready, or something like that. I have to, I got some cookbooks, learn how to cook. I have to think about that. I can't if I sit around. One other negative thing about online work is that you sit around. I'm gonna get chubby, and I have gotten chubby quickly, so I have to go to the gym and do things because nothing in my life has anything to do with that unless I go out of my way to be active.
That's right.
And so, those kinds of things are discussed on this podcast. And I think about those things now. I have more of an appreciation. And I know as time moves forward, I'll have an increasing appreciation of all of these kinds of, all of these topics. Um, so yeah, so I think about it a lot more, and I try to take in as much as I can and pay attention
Yeah.
to what I hear.
Yeah. And here again, just like I said with the college, you have to have a certain amount of dedication and self-motivation to make this happen. So many people, whether it's your age or not, that's the part that's lacking. That's the part that they're missing. So they're used to being at a job all the time with someone telling them, okay, this is what you need to do next. You don't have that. You have to figure out what to do next. You know what to do next, and you have to get it done before the deadline that you have for the client. And you're not going to usually wait until the end of that deadline unless the client makes you wait.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a certain amount of discipline and self-motivation to do both of the things that you're doing, and you're juggling both. And of course, I might be biased, but I think you're incredible. So, and moving out, I'm just not going to talk about right now. So, we're just going to skip over that one,
Yeah.
so that I don't start getting emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just am going to wait until the absolute last day and minute that I have to even think about that. So you'll be getting
Yeah.
lots of hugs over the next couple of months, though. So don't worry. It's
Oh,
just
I know. I'm looking forward to the hugs.
Yes, I hope so. Okay, wow. So, I guess to sum it up, what would you say to the parents out there whose kids are coming up in middle school and possibly high school, and they are entrepreneurs or they want to be entrepreneurs, the parents do, and they're looking at their kids going, how can I make sure that my kids experience this other world and hopefully help have them appreciate it. Is there any word of advice you would give that parent who's wanting to have their kid be exposed to or appreciate some of the things that you've just talked about?
Well, first of all, don't try. I mean, well, since I am not a parent, nowhere near being a parent myself, so I don't have a lot of parenting experience. But since I was a child at one point, and I did have parents, just make sure they understand what it is that you do, I suppose. Don't try to force it on them, because when you're a teenager, right? And I wasn't this way,
No.
but when you're a teenager, someone tells you to do something, you're obligated, as a teenager, to do the opposite thing. So don't try to shove it down their throats and say, be an entrepreneur, it's so much better. They kind of have to discover on their own, because it took me a while to realize that entrepreneurship is the way to go. People, didn't, like Dad, he advocated for a quote unquote real job. Some of my friends, when I talk about how I don't need to go to a job, they'll be like, oh, but you will at some point, or you'll need to have that resume. When I'm like, I don't need a resume, they're like, you will at some point. Or they talk about, like, oh, I'll probably make more money than what you will. And then I tell them my income. They're like, oh, never mind. Which is nice. That's confidence boost.
Right.
As a parent, just make sure they understand what it is that you do. And hopefully at some point as they start to grow up, they'll remember that, it'll stick with them, and they'll appreciate it and decide on their own to do that as well. Unless you, of course, one thing that was, I doubt I'd be in the place that I am now if, my mom didn't give me the skills that I have and ask me to help you with stuff, and then prompt me to sell it to other people. But I mean, I guess I kind of had to come to the place that I'm at today on my own, right, with those physical jobs. So just make sure your kids understand what you do. And I would hope that they would appreciate that as time goes forward.
Yeah. So let's be clear. I did not force you to become my podcast editor, right?
Yeah, no, I was never forced to do anything. Yeah. I don't really remember when you first asked me. I just remember it happened and I did it and I never stopped doing it.
Right. And yeah, I asked you if you wanted to learn how to do this, if you wanted to maybe help me out, and you're like, oh, okay. And I taught you how to do it, showed you how to do it, and you just kept doing it. So yeah, just make sure, parents, I'm not a slave driver. I'm not child labor. I didn't force him to do it. I actually paid him for a while, and then I kindly didn't pay him for a while. And now I'm paying him again.
Discounted rate though, because you also do pay for stuff like food and clothes and housing.
Yeah, so I guess when you move out, I'm going to have to pay full fare. What's up with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
All right. We're done with this. I'm not going to think about moving out. La 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 la. Yeah. So we're just okay. Yeah. I'll pay whatever you want.
Oh, okay. I'll quote you on that. Whatever I want.
Yeah. No. Sorry. All right. I am so proud of you. I am so happy that you were able to join me on the podcast. And I know we will do again. And I know that we will continue working together. And I don't care where you are, you will see my face either on Skype or Zoom or in person on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the things that I hope I'll be able to do as I get more clients to make more money, then I can fly and drive and whatever back and forth between places. Awesome.
We will definitely be living in Europe for a while, right? You gonna come with me?
Be pretty awesome.
Yeah, you're gonna have to come with me. So here we go. All right, love. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you sharing all the things that you've been talking about. I know this will help some other parents thinking about giving this opportunity to their children, or at least exposing their children to this opportunity so that they can make an informed decision as well. So I love you. Thank you.
I love you too. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
To get powered up for your day, just go to parentepower.com and listen to the over 200 episodes we have so far with amazing entrepreneurs just like you. It might just help you feel like a grown-up again.